Welcome back to all new comic book late night. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And tonight,
I'm McFarlane Spider-Man.
Tonight we're talking about this last week's comics. As always, of course, got quite a few this last week. I don't think this was as good of a week as last week, but I definitely bought as much or more.
And next week looks huge.
Next week is huge. Yeah, and I was kind of surprised because I figured, you know, right at Christmas, maybe that would be a slim week, but it's not. I think
it's a big week for us, for a lot of books we're reading.
I think New Year's week is usually a slimmer week.
Yeah.
So I was...
sometimes it's the skip week.
Yeah.
And that's the thing the comic shops hate, as far as I understand.
Yes. But anyway, how's it going, folks? Good to see you. Good to be seen. We've got some folks in the comments right now. If you're watching after the fact, thanks so much for being here. When
not four, I just haven't developed object permanence.
Oh, okay. That's a thing 4-year-olds have struggle with.
Look, I'm a late bloomer,
or younger than that. Anyway, he's like,
I'll make fun of your disabilities, like your fake legs.
I was just thinking, like, no, Eric is constantly like, Cap can't see in 3D. Anyway,
everyone I've talked to is like, Rogue One's amazing in 3D. I was like, I know someone who will never experience that.
I talked to Steve about that when he and I were still arguing about CG Tarkin, right? And at one point he goes CG, well, because what started that whole thing was he was like, what'd you think of Rogue One? I said I thought it was great. He said me too, and he mentioned something that he really liked, and the second thing he says is CG Tarkin was awesome, and I responded with nope. And he goes, and he was like, it looks great in 3D. And I was like, Steve, who are you talking to? And I'm not kidding. He goes, oh, I am so sorry. It was great. Anyway, let's go ahead and just leap right into everything. We're going to do a trivia question, and the trivia question for this evening, because a Superman comic came out this week. Well, actually, I think this character was in Superwoman this week. The character this week, and this is not on my top 3, but the question this week is about the Superman character Bibbo Bobowski. And the question is, I love Bibbo, yeah. And for a minute, I thought he might get killed in this issue, and I just wanted to see that event. World without Bibbo.
I care more about Death of Bibbo than I do Death of Hawkman.
I thought you were going to say Death of Superman. No. You're like, I didn't care when 52 Superman died, but boy, if they killed off Bibbo. And of course, their Bibbo is exactly the same character.
And Bibbo hasn't been seen since like 1998, so.
He hasn't, yeah, not a long time. I think maybe he does pop in toward the beginning of 52, but I'm not sure.
He likes Superman because he's his favorite.
But Jurgens, of course, brings him in.
52 Superman is no one's favorite. That's why Bibbo's not there.
Okay, but then when Jurgens brings him in, he is his favorite. So anyway,
but he's pre-52 Bibbo. He came over with Superman and Lois.
The trivia question for this evening. First is going to get a copy of a Marvel book because that's the company that does the codes. And this week, what do I have Marvel that I could give you? It's not Nancy's. Nope. This week you have your choice between Spider-Man number 10 and Old Man Logan number 15. So whichever one of those.
Ooh, pick Old Man Logan number 15.
Like.
It's super fun. It's not in my top 3. It is super fun.
Yeah, and I didn't care for the one for the beginning of that 2-part story, but I actually ended up really liking it once I got acclimated to.
You thought it was a whole arc. I think you might like that first one better if you just knew it was a quick 2-issue fill-in.
Probably so. Yeah, I just wasn't sure, and I was a little bit worried they were going to start changing the style a lot. I mean, it does read like a fill-in thing, but I wasn't sure because it doesn't end in that issue. And they could have made that a 1-issue story, but it's fine as a 2-issue story. Yeah. But anyway, there's some really fun stuff with Dracula in that. I actually really like that issue.
Yeah, me too.
I thought it was quite good. But anyway, let's see if anybody's answered it yet. Oh, apparently I lagged when I asked the question, which would explain why no one's answered it yet. The question is, what is the name of the bar that Bibbo Bobowski owns? His bar. Go ahead and write that in the comments. And again, whoever gets it right will get one of those comics, and I will mention the winner and the answer at the end of the show. And now let's get into announced comics this week. Eric, the first one I want to talk about is a Power Rangers one-shot / graphic novel that's being released.
Oh, yeah.
That I'm actually potentially excited for, depending on how good the movie is. It's movie continuity.
Is it a prequel?
No, it's way cooler than that.
Okay.
Potentially way cooler than that. I'm really surprised that they're doing this.
Because I hate it when they do prequel stuff for something where like people get powers in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a waste of time.
Riddler until he's just said, I wished it lagged again right as Cap said it again.
They did a prequel comic for Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
What is that?
No, I always hate that. Well, and this, of course, you did a prequel comic. They don't have powers yet. There's nothing. Like, what did you? Well, you could do a prequel comic for the mythology stuff.
Yeah, that would be cool.
A Zordon
but they never do that.
And I would love that, but they hardly ever do that. Anyway, this is coming out, and of course, Boom Studios. This is coming out 5 days after the movie is released. It's 96 pages, and it takes place right after the film.
Oh man, so it's like, is it like an epilogue? Is it like Power Rangers the movie epilogue or whatever?
They're talking about it like it's a direct sequel.
That's awesome.
Like they made another movie in comic book form, which is really interesting because it tells you one of two things. Either they know already precisely where they're going after that, or this comic will not matter.
Yeah.
Like they could pave right over it.
Which is a bummer if it's really good.
If it's really good, yeah, they could pave right over it. This is the thing.
What if at the end of the movie we have like the setup for Tommy, and it's all Tommy, and it's setting up Tommy for the next movie? That'd be cool.
Maybe so. This is a thing we never do. And I think it's really cool. Like, I'm kind of surprised. And I'm also surprised that it's graphic novel form and not a miniseries. It's going to be $14.99. Comes out all at once, 96 pages.
That's cool.
I'm kind of excited about that. I think it's neat.
That is.
And it's got a neat looking cover. I'm going to try to...
I was at work all day. I didn't get to actually see any of this, so...
When we come back from...
Is that Venom shirt?
Holiday break. This is a Venom shirt. Yeah.
Shirt. I got Spider-Man.
And it's funny too because the other day Dan and I made a Spider-Man video, and I was hunting all through my wardrobe trying to find a Spider-Man shirt. For whatever reason, I couldn't find one, and then there it was. Anyway, so it's a good story, Cap. So anyway, what were we talking about? The Power Rangers thing. But that could be really cool.
That could be.
So we'll see. Oh, what I was going to say is, after we come back from the holidays, I'm going to try to rig the show up differently so that I can more easily have like intros and outros and put pictures on and things like that. Because it's a thing I can do. It's just when you have somebody else in remotely, I don't know how easy it is to put them in out. So I wasn't doing that with Lo, and of course Lo's going to come back, but I'm going to see if there's some way to also get another person in. So anyway, that's my hope, because I hate talking about things like this and then not showing you the images. So that's the thing. The other thing I want to mention, and we don't know what it's called yet or anything about it, but apparently the first big event of 2017 for Marvel is going to be Venom themed, which is
the second big event then. Monsters Unleashed.
Well, I thought that begins this month though.
It's January.
Oh, is it? Okay. Anyway, whatever. But I think the Venom thing will be bigger than that.
Just adding to the fact that Monsters Unleashed already feels like it's an unimportant thing.
Yeah. You keep talking about it like it's actually an event.
They're talking about it like it's actually an event.
Sure. Anyway, so they're doing a big Venom event,
cool.
Which I think is potentially exciting, and they're also doing a bunch of variant covers sporadically for a while, where they're Venomizing a bunch of different characters, and some of those might be really cool. So
I feel like I've seen that. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. The fact that
maybe I'm just confusing that with the
mentioning
90s.
That they're doing it doesn't preclude it from having maybe happened before, Eric. I'm just saying this is a thing they're doing. I don't know if they did it before.
Are you sure you didn't get your news from 5 years ago?
I didn't. Nope, certainly didn't. Anyway,
when they did Venom Bomb in Mighty Avengers, you sure?
Nope, that's not what happened.
Where that one issue where like Wolverine's on the cover and he's got the Venom symbiote?
Because I saw some of those covers and one of them was like Spider-Gwen and stuff. So
there's a new Avengers cover with Wolverine and
she's new,
and he's got the symbiote and like it's taking over him. Venom does not appear in that issue or that arc. Screw that cover.
Anyway, before we get into our top three, let me first put a quick shout out to Elite Comics here in Overland Park, who helps us out with the show. If you are ever in the Kansas City area, make sure you check out Elite. They are absolutely fabulous. They're in Overland Park here in Kansas. They've been affiliated with us for several years, and we love them, and they're great. Okay, now
the owner's great.
I
love William.
Let's get into our top three. And Eric, would you like to begin, sir?
Sure.
What is your number three for this week?
So my number three is Hawkeye #1, which is written by Kelly Thompson and drawn by Leonardo Romero. Sure. Hawkeye.
I've fallen.
I whiplash. But
we'll get to that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. So I really like this issue. There's a couple of things in this issue that I could see me disliking this series or dropping the series real quick if this book goes into certain directions that I'm not looking forward to. But this feels a lot like a really natural extension of Matt Fraction's run, especially what he was doing with Kate in the back half of that run. That run splits, and they alternate issues between Kate stories and Clint stories, and then they kind of meet up again at the end. She goes to L.A., kind of plays around it, maybe being a detective, and then this is exactly what that is. This is she goes back to L.A. and actually becomes a detective, except she doesn't actually have a detective's license, and the sign on her door is just taped there, and it says Hawk, and then there's a drawing of an eye.
Oh, that's
and then it
fun.
says investigations.
That's great.
And she's kind of trying.
They've got to do a Jessica Jones crossover with her, right?
They have to. I mean, this is kind of in my wheelhouse. I like detective stories. This is a detective story. I already like Kate. I've liked Kate going back to New Avenger, or I mean, Young Avengers.
I didn't know that character existed until you told me about it in this book came out.
Yeah. I liked her in Young Avengers. And then she's fantastic in Fractions Hawkeye. And it's a real fun. Stylistically, the art is similar to the Fraction Hawkeye stuff. The humor is kind of similar. It doesn't feel like it's ripping on it, but it feels like
it's in the same vein.
It's in the same vein. It kind of feels almost like a spiritual sequel. I didn't read Lemire's run. I don't know if Lemire's run feels like that, but and he does both Clint and
neither. But I'm pretty sure it's drawn by Sorrentino, which immediately makes me think it's gritty and kind of rough. Oh, that's great. You're showing me the Hawkeye.
Yeah, sorry, I was showing the Hawkeye investigations. So I like this quite a bit. It almost feels like
we just kind of do our own thing. You guys are just flies on the wall.
It almost feels like a slightly more heightened because it's a superhero universe. It feels kind of like Brick. If you've ever seen the movie Brick, which I don't think you have.
No, I've heard you talk about it.
I like Brick quite a bit. This is not as self-serious as Brick. Here, you can just show that to the camera.
Sure. Agents of Hawkeye. If you guys can see this, of course, I'm sure we're going to lag or be really blurry right now. See, this is why I'm going to try to make this more high tech here in a couple of weeks.
Anyway. But it feels like a slightly more fun, poppy version of something like Brick, where it's a very the case that the person she's investigating is a college student. She's checking out like college campus. She's a college kid. Brick takes place in a high school. It kind of has a similar vein to that. So I really liked that. That was a fun kind of PI superhero thing. I also I've never seen this with a PI superhero. She has to get off a case to stop a bank robbery because she's still a superhero. She's a superhero detective, so
she's kind of doing the double life thing, but not with a secret identity. Or is it a secret identity?
It's not really a secret identity, but it is the double life thing. Like her real job is that she finds criminals and stuff like that as a detective, but she also will stop doing that for a moment to go be a superhero.
And those can go hand in hand, but then you could have separate cases.
Yeah.
A lot like Daredevil, which is also a character that I'd like to see her cross over in.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That book maybe. Well, I was gonna say that book might be too light to cross over Daredevil, but Jessica Jones is really dark too. So
yeah, but if you brought her into that book, you wouldn't want to see Daredevil there necessarily. Although maybe.
Yeah, I guess
sometimes when we cross,
it depends on how it goes. Yeah, if she goes into Daredevil or Jessica Jones and it's just she exists in that darker world, or if they come to her and they exist in her lighter world, it's really East Coast West Coast thing because she's in California it's bright and sunny. Okay. Jessica Jones is in New York, it's dark and rainy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I liked it quite a bit.
Daredevil went back to New York.
Yeah,
he was in Seattle.
He was in Seattle, which is also
no. See, I keep thinking it's Seattle.
It's not Seattle. It's the one at the top of California. The X-Men were there for a while.
Yeah, San Francisco.
San Francisco.
Yeah,
which is also a big noir town. It's funny because you think noir, you think cities like New York, but most noir takes place in LA.
Yeah, you think of Detroit and stuff.
Yeah, it mostly the big stuff takes place in LA.
I tend to.
Chandler takes place.
Anytime I start seeing patterns like this these days, because we just do this a lot in comics now,
Mhm.
I immediately start thinking, will we eventually see a team of these characters? A private investigating team?
She mentions, she says something about being a girl superhero detective. She goes, that's what's in right now. That's what's cool, right? That's what everybody's
hilarious.
doing.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, no, that book is aware
I like
of
that
this.
it's self-aware of that, because that's why that got made.
Yep.
That's great.
Yep.
I like that.
I mean, you can read for it.
Do we have? Yeah, and I meant to read it, and I just didn't get to it. That sounds really neat.
Yeah, I liked it.
It's funny because like
It's my number 3.
You're a big private investigator guy. Right. Now I understand why it's on your list. No, you're a big private investigator guy, and you like, but you like a lot of. You like a couple genres that never like grab me that hard. Like I'm not a big spy guy, and I don't like seek out private investigative stuff. But sometimes when I get to it, I get real sucked in. Like I love Venice's Sam and Twitch. You know, there's things like that that like that noir kind of aesthetic and that feel I get excited about. But it's not a thing I've ever like studied or gotten immersed in.
Right.
And so I'm starting to think maybe at some point I should look into more of that, because maybe that is my thing and I don't know it.
You should try Stumptown. I read Stumptown. I was like, that's not really a thing because it's a detective book. Maybe you'd like it. Maybe you should try Stumptown. I'm hopefully going to do an indie vault on Stumptown, the first volume soon.
Good luck.
Or it could just be a comic vault if you read it and have things to say.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. My number 3 is also a number 3. My number 3 this week is Star Trek.
Mine's a number 1.
Boldly Go, number 3, and this is written by Mike Johnson with art by Tony Shastine. This is the first time I want to say one of these has made it on my top 3. I don't know if I've ever put a Star Trek book here. These I generally think are just okay to not that good at all. Boldly Go, I've been impressed with so far. No, maybe I put the number 1 on my list. I was pretty impressed. No, I think maybe I did. Now that I'm thinking about it. But anyway, I have liked this book okay. I'm excited that we are finally doing an ongoing story that can be longer than a couple of issues. It's a problem we've had with Star Trek going all the way back to the beginning of IDW getting the license. Where even when we got to a monthly, we still weren't allowed to tell stories that were more than 4 issues long. And this feels like even when, and like the last Star Trek monthly was continuous. It remembered things that happened and it sometimes built on them, but it felt a little bit more like TNG, where you would get like spiritual sequels, or you would get like a direct sequel but to a story, but like several arcs later. And this feels a lot more cohesive and like it might like actually build character throughout some arcs, which would be exciting. But anyway, so this is, as I've talked about before, Abrams verse meets the Borg, and the reason I put it on my in my top 3 this week is because I'm impressed with the way we've roped this into the alternate timeline thing, and that we used that as an explanation for why the Borg get here this early, because I thought it would. We have established, at least in the comics, that we are in an alternate universe, not a paved over timeline, which the movies really need to establish, but whatever, because they cover a multitude of sins if they just tell us that. So what we discover has happened is that the Borg show up because of the Narada, Nero's ship from the 09 film. And it turns out, and I don't think I'm giving too much away by saying this, because this would be the thing that would maybe make people want to read it. We find out in this that the Narada included Borg technology, and that's why it was so advanced. Which, I mean, I'm not real sure how Nero got his hands on it, and there's no way for anybody to know that, because he's a dead person, and that ship is gone. But I like that there is at least some kind of an explanation for why a mining vessel is like 6 times bigger and more powerful than the scimitar from Nemesis.
Is it possible,
it's the scimitar again.
Is it possible that he got the Borg technology in the future, and it's Borg modified in the future, where he would be more likely to get his hands on Borg tech, and then when it goes to the past?
What do you mean in the future?
because the mining ship comes from the future.
Yeah, but we know, you're right. Like a decade or two after Nemesis. Like, we know when that is. But I'm just saying, I don't know how he got his hands on it.
Right, but I guess I was thinking he would modify it in the past, but that doesn't make sense. So okay.
No, certainly not.
Okay.
I'm assuming that the Narada, and when you see images of it in that movie, it seems to have looked like that before we went back in time. That makes no sense, Eric. Because you couldn't have gone to the Delta Quadrant to get it.
I thought that was the question. Was like, well, how did he get Borg technology?
No, the question is, what exactly did he do? Because my assumption, I wish somehow rather the book could tell us this. My assumption is he got it from the Federation because Voyager has Borg technology and they've come back. So that's smart. There is certainly precedent for that, and we have advanced our technology with Borg tech in the Federation. But Nero's a mining guy. He would have had to have sent in spies. He would have had to have crossed the neutral zone. How did he get this? How did he get it? I don't know that. But the idea is it takes the Borg a few years to get here because of course they're all the way in the Delta Quadrant, which is 70,000 light years away, and this early they probably don't have the transwarp hubs, so it would take them longer to get here. But I really like that there is an explanation for it, and that it's still part, even though this is an alternate timeline, it's still part of that kind of I don't want to say paving over idea, but that by and large everything happened about the same way, but this was the big impetus that changed things. But I don't know, that's I'm not even talking about story stuff. I just think that is a concept is really cool. Borgified,
what was that?
It's, as I said, it's Tony Shastine.
He looks a lot like LaRocca.
He does look somewhat like LaRocca, but I really like Borgified Captain Terrell from Wrath of Khan. This guy just cannot catch a break. He gets mind controlled by Khan with the SETI eel, in Wrath of Khan, and now he gets turned into a Borg. I just think that's hilarious, and that's a lot of fun. I also like that the more I'm looking at this, that these Borg look a little bit more like TNG Borg than they do, later, like First Contact and Voyager Borg. Like, they still have the chest plates from the later stuff, but they don't look as advanced, and that's kind of neat. And then the cliffhanger is fun. I mean, it's kind of, it's something you might expect to happen somewhere in this. I'll just say somebody we know gets Borgified, because that's got to happen. But anyway, I don't know. I like that a lot. What's your number 2, sir?
Do they become pre-Cutis of Borg?
Sure.
Okay.
Although Captain Terrell kind of does the Locutus thing a little bit. He is sort of like speaking for the Borg. And like they're resisting too much, so the Borg don't seem to even really care that much about assimilating them. They're just like, we're going to destroy you. Because they're not actually here to assimilate the Federation. They're trying to find the Narada. And I hope that ends up paying off and ends up making sense, because it's kind of like, okay, you guys are here just because that I had Borg technology on it. I guess it's from the future, so presumably if they assimilate it, they get something that jumps them ahead a couple hundred years technologically,
right?
But or at least 100 years. But anyway, what is your number 2, sir?
All right, you've got it over there. It is Guardians number 13.
Guardians number 13. 15. Guardians
number 15, which is the first issue of Grounded. It's got a big number 1. It says Grounded starts now, but unless
it initially feels like an interlude issue, but the more we've talked about it, the more I think it might end up making sense. We need another issue before we can really
the way this
pass
ends
judgment
makes me
on that.
think. I don't know.
I also feel like that wouldn't have felt as jarring if we had been reading Guardians. Like we read the last issue, but I keep forgetting that the Thing has been on that team.
Mm-hmm.
Because you read it and you were like, well, it's weird because it's all about the Thing and it's not about any of the Guardians, but he's been a Guardian lately. So if you've been reading it, that might not feel as jarring.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't that it was about the Thing in the Guardians book. I knew that he was on the team, but it was weird that the first issue of a new arc was about just one of them. That was my thing. Because it was before I read it, I was just flipping through it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if the whole issue was like just Gamora or just Star-Lord or something, that wouldn't have felt as jarring.
I still think it would feel weird as the first part of an arc.
Yeah, maybe.
And And this doesn't...
I just mean that particular story, it feels like an interlude.
Yeah, this doesn't feel like the first issue of an arc. This feels like something that should have come out last month before Infamous Iron Man #2. It's really tied to what's going on in Infamous Iron Man.
It's a prelude to that. It sets up the Thing's involvement. And I totally forgot that he was in that issue.
I kind of wish he was in, or I kind of wish this came out either before issue 2 or before issue 1. Like, that would have been cool. That's old school kind of continuity stuff where, like, you're setting up something in another book, in this book. It came out after those issues, so it's not as cool. But it's really fun. Bendis does these really well when he feels like doing these. These just one character, it's about them issues. So, most of the best issues of New Avengers are like this, where he just decides to do an issue about a character. And I genuinely laughed at this book. Like, it's actually funny. Like, a lot of
he's got a good voice for Ben Grimm.
A lot of newer Bendis isn't really funny. It feels like it's trying to be funny, and he didn't used to have that. He used to just be naturally funny. This feels like a younger Bendis. This feels like a Bendis that just, he knows what's funny. It's a really fun issue. Whiplash shows up at one point. He's got a thick Russian accent, and he says, "I am Whiplash!"
And that's hilarious.
And he also says, "How do you say ow in Russian?" I thought that line was weird. But I don't know. I really enjoyed this. It made me more interested in the Thing in Infamous Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing where he's coming from, which is basically just, no, he doesn't get to do that. He doesn't get to just show up and say he's going to be a good guy. That's not cool. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a really nice character piece on Ben Grimm.
My favorite thing about that issue is all of the Fantastic Four history.
Yeah.
And not that it's about not that it's like building history and talking about a lot of that stuff, but just the flavor of, we miss the good old days. Bendis misses it. The Thing misses it. We miss it. We've not forgotten about the Fantastic Four. We're using the fact that the Fantastic Four aren't being used as that team anymore as a story point, instead of just ignoring it, which makes me more okay with it. Where it's like something is missing, and like whatever the initial motivation is for that, it's really nice the Marvel Universe on the whole is, because this is not the only place where I'm kind of getting that vibe a little bit. Silver Surfer had it a little bit too when the Thing showed up, and I keep feeling like something is missing, and Marvel knows it. And so like the Thing coming back to Earth is real bittersweet. It's almost like like there are things he misses, and a lot of it is like, pizza and stuff. He's going to his old stomping grounds and everything, and he's remembering how how much people appreciate all the good things he's done for the Earth, where like the Earth is missing something by not having the Thing there.
Well, and there's a point in this that was really interesting, that's maybe him retroactively explaining Doom being an Iron Man before this, where he says, "Why'd he go to Tony?" And whoever he's talking to says, "Well, most people think this 4 wasn't around."
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
The Thing needs a team.
Yeah.
He doesn't like to operate by himself. But what I was going to say is, at the same time as he is, revisiting his old haunts, and realizing how much he missed the Earth, it also feels like he was kind of escaping from those memories that are hard because he doesn't have that team anymore. Which,
was that a story, or did we just stop using them? Did we ever actually, or is it just from Marvel, all new, all different Marvel forward, they're just not a team?
No, I mean, it's a Secret Wars thing, certainly.
Okay. All right.
I don't know if there's a place where specifically it's like we have disbanded them.
There is no Fantastic Four disassembled?
Not really that I know of. And there is definitely a place right after Secret Wars where we have a status quo where with certain things where it feels like we didn't really have an organic transition to that. And now it's like this, and it's easy to do that when you just reset your universe. But the problem is, I need to know. We're cherry picking a little bit what characters are remembering about stuff and what they're not, because the majority, as I've said before, of the very beginning of Secret Wars feels like nothing happened at all. Where like and now it's the next arc, and even something like Miles Morales and Spider-Man, where he's in a whole other universe and doesn't seem to remember Ultimate, we still just kind of jump on from where we left off, and that has been really strange. So it's smarter than the way 52 happened, but there's still a little bit of having its cake and eating it too, I think.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like Marvel does this a lot with this kind of stuff, where it's just like, yeah, we're just gonna book to book, we're gonna pick and choose. This was the problem with Civil War, the comic book series. Book to book, we didn't know what the law was, what the Super Registration Act law was. That's how they've been for a long time.
But I'm not confident that there isn't a comic that is about the disbanding of the Fantastic Four, because there's stuff I haven't read.
Yeah. Okay. What is your number 2?
My number 2, and I did not expect this to make my list. I really didn't. But my number 2 is the Gwenpool Holiday Special, Merry Mix-Up. This is hysterical, and the comedy is much smarter than you would expect. And it's one of these.
Every time you're talking about Gwenpool.
But what's great about this is the stuff I like in this has nothing to do with her, actually.
Oh, really?
For the most part, yeah. She's not even in the majority of it. She bookends it. But basically, okay, so this is several stories, like a lot of these holiday things, like one-shots end up being, but they're all tied together by one big event, and so you don't feel like you're reading separate, disparate things and you kind of forget one going into the other, going into the other. Is
it like a Rashomon thing, where you're seeing the same story from different perspectives? Or
no, not at all.
A bunch of small stories that have a through line.
Yeah, it's moving forward. It's several different stories, but so it opens. The whole thing is bookended with one story. It's vignettes set in the same world as the idea. So it's and when I say world, that's important because from right, and this is like super absurd, but from right away, something is wrong with reality, and we are through these different stories exploring the weird, silly things that are wrong with reality. And what it is somebody, and I won't tell you who, because I think people will enjoy this, and you should read it, but somebody has mucked with reality such that every holiday is different than it was before. All the holidays are wrong. And Gwenpool is like, because of course she's from our world and she's come into the Marvel universe, and Batroc the Leaper and people that she works with on her assassins team are talking about the Christmas is a totally different thing, and she's talking about regular Christmas traditions like decorating a tree, and they're laughing at that like that's the silliest thing they've ever heard of. And meanwhile, Thanksgiving has been transformed into Pantsgiving, where you give people small pants, and it makes perfect sense to them. And when you get the explanation of what we're supposed to learn from that, it's great. But anyway, so she goes on a quest to figure out what happened to holidays, and so she leaves, and then you get 3 or 4 stories about these different messed up holidays, and then at the end, she goes and figures out who did it and fixes it. And the best thing about it, of course, is Galactus. And in this new messed up reality, Galactus is Santa Claus, and no one thinks he's real. And he shows up, and no one believes that Galactus is a real thing, and somebody I forget who I know there's the whole Miles Morales story, and Miles meets Galactus and has like the like Santa Claus thing. Oh my God, Santa Claus is a real person, and he tries to get a picture of him. And then Galactus like disappears, and nobody believes him that he was really there. And there's some really fun flavor text on the bottom of some of these pages. And let me see if I can find.
Are they like footnotes?
It does the thing that Tiny Titans does, where it will like comment on the page under the page. And there's and I don't know. There's a lot of fun and things, but then like we change Christmas carols to be about Galactus and things. And there's this whole, I'm trying to remember what it is. Hold on, I want to find this footnote because it's hysterical. One thing I'm really wondering, though, is if anybody remembers that Galactus is no longer the Devourer of Worlds, that now he's the Lifebringer. or if somehow or rather this changed that for a second, because nobody talks about that, and yet he looks like the Lifebringer. He's orange like he is in Ultimates, and he has the same speech bubbles. So I was a little bit confused by that. Oh yeah, this is it. He's making a list and checking it twice, gonna find out whose planets taste nice. It's great. But anyway, so Galactus is hysterical, and then Red Skull gets a story. And Red Skull's story is a pastiche on like political correctness. It's the satire about all-inclusive words. And so he's in this place where everybody is supposed to say Hail Hydra, but he goes up to like a coffee shop and he orders a coffee, and the lady at the behind the counter says Hail Hatred instead of Hail Hydra, and that's like the new thing everyone is supposed to say, because there's all these like other things you could hail and it's not inclusive. And so he's talking about how like unfair that is, and it's hysterical. Anyway, really I was just surprised by how much fun that was. So anyway, that's my number 2. It's the best Galactus parody I've read in a while. Which you wouldn't think there's a lot of those, but there are a lot of those. Yeah, it's the best one since Schoolgirl 5, which was just freaking brilliant. What is your number 1?
For his decompression or slow storytelling, but
and that's the only reason it didn't make my list this time.
I feel like the scene that happened here was important. And happened even though nothing happened.
Yeah.
So
I just think it was great as a single issue as some other things that.
It's a chapter. Like that's really what it is. I would agree. It's maybe not the best single issue. It's the middle of a story.
Yeah.
So we can talk about what we didn't talk about last time, which is the big villain revealed at the end of last issue was the Spot. And I was like, oh man, Bendis is going to do the Spot what he did to Purple Man. He's going to take this guy who could have a power that's really scary,
and he's going to jump off what Mark Waid did with him for a second and a half.
Yeah. And then he just does the Bendis thing where he's kind of a joke and a henchman. He's not really threatening, and Art Dillon's stupid.
That was sad.
That was a bummer.
But she's fascinating.
Yeah, there's
the actual villain.
There's an actual villain who's interrogating Jessica.
And trying to get her on her side.
Yeah, and I have a theory as to who she is. But I'm not positive. But I've got a theory with some evidence as to who she is. Now it ties to the case.
And at the very least, we both think that it has to have something to do with the Ultimate Universe.
The Ultimate Universe, because that's how this case starts.
And we haven't talked about that much since that first issue. We're only 3 in, but we thought it was going to be all about that, and we haven't been able to delve into it much.
Yeah. I didn't notice. Did you notice that Hydra was on the cover?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, that was the first thing I noticed when I looked at that, and I wondered how that was going to play.
And the parental diary is still at the top.
That's good.
It's not in the same place it was before, but it's right under the issue number. So,
but as I mentioned before, I don't know if we talked about this on camera, but it is in the best place in the artwork to put it without covering any of the artwork. Mm-hmm. So I still think you are unless we are intentionally drawing covers so that can be up high, you're not going to see it. You're going to end up seeing it down low at some point. This is a conversation we have because sometimes I feel like the parental advisory isn't in a place where it's noticeable enough, and they used to be smaller than this. I'm real impressed with this book for making it real clear that this is an adult, especially because my big complaint with this was I thought it was unnecessarily vulgar at the beginning.
That's Jessica.
Yeah.
No, you didn't read Alias. That's Jessica. That felt really in character to me.
I'm not saying it's not in character. I just, I wasn't sure why right then. I don't know.
But I really like this issue. It continues to be one of the best books Marvel's putting out, at least to me. And it's real Bendis in his groove. Like a lot of other Bendis stuff, he really hit or miss.
Meandering.
This continues to be really good. We're only 3 issues in. but it feels really good.
It makes you wish he'd been able to do a sequel earlier than this.
But not if he didn't have any stories to tell. Like, that's what he talked about with starting this book up, was I finally had new cases.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's fair. And he does have a tendency to recycle, detective stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's tough,
And there is
Some writers only have
a
a couple
sequel
of
to
those in
Alias. It's called The Pulse.
Oh, really?
I've never read it, but it's a normal Marvel book, and it's her running specifically the superhero office of the Daily Bugle, which is called The Pulse. So that's the thing. I've not read it, but I've heard it's okay.
In the comments for the last 10 minutes, all anybody has been talking about is just been a debate about whether or not Batman should kill. It's just been...
Oh, that's weird, because Batman wasn't in any of our books. Pay attention to us!
No, it's totally okay.
Stop your petty squabbles!
Was that Londo? Mr. Garibaldi! My number one was Guardians 15.
Oh, interesting.
And we talked about that, so I don't have a lot to add, but
I'm glad you liked it too. I assumed it was not on your 3. Like, you maybe chose, because I asked you if it was on your 3 and you said it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it didn't come up as 3 or 2, I just assumed that you'd pick something else over it. I didn't realize it was your favorite book this week.
Yeah, which surprised me. But I liked how in his head we got. It's weird because it's a Guardians issue, but it feels like Bendis is more comfortable writing it because he's back on Earth. It's like it's grounded because Bendis needs to be grounded. Like, Bendis never seemed right for this book to me. Mm-hmm. I like those early issues a lot, and he got screwed a lot with events, and we've talked about this, where he just kept having to tie everything into events, so I didn't feel like he got to keep telling a story. So I liked what he was doing, but he still never really felt like the Cosmic Guy to me. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden, being firmly planting our feet literally back on the Earth, it feels like he's able to take his time with these characters.
Well, we haven't been reading this. We
sure.
Don't know if maybe it's felt like that this whole time.
Yeah.
This whole volume maybe has been not so crossover heavy and able for Bendis to really tell his stories.
Yeah, and probably so, but it made me, I don't know, it felt like the first issue of a Thing book, and it made me want more of that.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I would probably read that. Also, the Thing and Mary Jane should, team up and have an arc. I liked them together a lot.
I love that he can't place where he knows her from.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
And it's funny because there aren't a lot of characters because this, or at least classic characters, because we've got decades and decades of these stories that don't know each other or don't know each other well. So it's unusual to have two characters that feel the need to introduce each other. And
I really like
that
because he's not friends with Spider-Man, but Johnny's friends with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't really have a reason to know her, but he's like, were you one of Johnny's girlfriends?
Yeah.
Oh, you were a model. Are you sure you were one of Johnny's girlfriends? I like that. I also love.
Yeah, and I liked her explanation for why she never dated Johnny Storm. Where he's just a guy that calls up girls and expects them to date him.
I love the face that he makes when he finds out that Dr. Doom is being Iron Man now.
Yeah,
it's 3 panels and it's just great.
And it's real old school.
Yeah.
I feel like that's an issue Stan Lee would have liked.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so that's everything for the 3. Let's go ahead and go into now cover of the week. And do you have a favorite cover, Eric?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about doing this one, but I didn't actually read that issue, so that feels dishonest. So I'm going to go with, again, I'm going to go with Jessica Jones number 3. These covers are just great. It's I can never remember. It's David Mack. David Mack is an artist I don't love in issues, but he does great covers. All the Jessica Jones covers. I think 2 is still my favorite cover, but this cover's great.
I guess I'm going to go with Old Man Logan as a vampire.
It's a good cover.
It's a really good cover. And even without reading the issue, immediately kind of a provocative image. I mean, you think about like he's getting old. And, finally this character who thought he might be immortal has actually aged. And then what if he became a vampire? Just immediately. And the book doesn't really deal with that idea much, but just like you look at that cover and you think, oh, that's like there's stuff there. That's kind of an interesting notion. So I don't know. I feel like I actually could give you a more interesting read of this cover than I could of the story, because it's a real simple kind of surface story. But
well, they mentioned it in the issue. Like Dracula bites
They do
Wolverine,
talk
it's
about
just
that
like,
some,
it's like
yeah.
your healing factor usually makes it so you can't be a vampire, but you're old and you don't heal as well. I wonder how this is going to turn out. And he doesn't become a vampire. Spoilers.
Yeah, but like if
Old Logan is not a vampire from this point forward.
But if he became a vampire, interestingly, he ends up with kind of his same power set again.
Yeah, he
to a
actually,
degree. Yeah.
because now he has weaknesses he didn't have and not many advantages he didn't already have.
Mm-hmm. But he gets to live forever, and he has a healing factor.
Yeah.
Because vampires basically have a healing factor. All right, so do you have a worst book this week?
You know,
Was there a book you didn't like?
Oh, I got the wrong one. That's part of the reason I got it was because I was like, oh, I know worst is coming up. I'm gonna go with James Bond, Hammerhead, number 3. This is a nice cover too. I didn't even see that.
Oh yeah, that looks really good.
This isn't a worst issue. It's a least favorite issue or a least liked issue. This one's fine. It's I really like the beginning of this because it felt like a Bond movie. I kind of don't love this issue because it's starting to feel like it's just a Bond movie. Like I'm not really sure what makes this story special. It's fun, but it's not great. The biggest criticism of this book I have is that it's a flip book that gives you the first couple of pages of the Felix Leiter ongoing or mini. We're doing a Felix Leiter mini.
Oh, weird.
It's great. I liked the like 3 pages of Felix Leiter better than the whole issue of James Bond.
Don't do that as a flip book. You just put that in the back. Like a flip book should be a whole half an issue. You're like
it's
half an issue
James
size,
Robinson,
right?
Right in the Felix Leiter issue.
Really? But I'm just saying, I don't know why we did that as a flip book. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Look at that.
Yeah, wow, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna read the Felix Leiter book. This was fine. It was fun, but nothing spectacular.
I feel like you'll be one of 6 people that will even think to buy that.
And
I don't know what the audience is for that.
And I messaged Steve when I saw the ad for it. I was like, "They're making a Felix Leiter book. Who's gonna read that? I like James Bond." I read 3 pages and I was like, "Oh, they've got a take."
That's interesting.
Yep.
My worst this week, and I can't even say least favorite. I think I just did not like this. Is Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows #2?
Oh wow, that's not what I thought you were gonna say.
Well, that's the obvious thing. To say IVX would be redundant. Didn't love that either. This is some of it is just it's not for me. And I think I'm dropping this after this. I may give it one more issue. I don't know. I'm not in love with the status quo of this premise. I want to love Mary Jane as another Spider character. I almost feel like it's a thing that would work better if we did it like the Lana Lang thing in Superwoman, and did it in current continuity. We're playing it like, and I'm going to sound like a hypocrite because they're doing a thing that 10 years ago I would have said is what you ought to do with Mary Jane in a way, just because of an argument I always made. I'll mention that in a minute because now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, oh, actually, this should not be what I'm saying, but this is how I feel about it. It really reads like this marriage would only work if both of them were superheroes. That, like, you can't have a superhero married to someone that doesn't also have superpowers because you're always in the situation of one feeling like better or grander or like a stronger character than the other one. You can't have just the wife that does all the important everyday stuff while he's out being a superhero. This
is Frank Miller's argument for why Superman needs to be dating Wonder Woman.
And I've always made that argument too. Is the thing, like I was like, Daredevil and Elektra make so much more sense than Spider-Man and Mary Jane. I've always said that, and yet when I was growing up reading Spider-Man in the 90s, I really liked that marriage. I really liked them together, and her frustration with having to stay back while he goes off and be the superhero was always part of what made that dynamic work, where she was understanding, but she wished there was more she could do. And I mean, like, you know, you can tell the story where now she goes and tries to do more, but it just feels real forced to me. It's difficult to explain.
Without having read that issue or the first one, that's not what any of us wanted from that book.
Exactly. Yeah.
We weren't asking for a Spider couple book. We were asking for a book where Peter Parker, the Peter Parker we knew, the Mary Jane we knew, grew up and kept living as if.
I just wanted to
not Renew Your Vows. One More Day.
One More Day didn't happen. Yeah. I just wanted to feel like I just wanted a book that kind of gave us what Spider-Man might have been like if One More Day had never happened.
That's what we all wanted from that.
Yeah, and I feel like they're overcompensating with it. And that's unfortunate. I don't like their dynamic in this. I'm finding her in some places kind of unsympathetic, kind of weirdly whiny and stuff.
And who is it writing that?
It's Jerry Conway, who I have been having issues with lately, apparently.
And that's weird because
not loving his Carnage, which is a totally different thing than this.
I don't know why you would put him on that book. He's outspoken that he didn't like the marriage. Roger Stern's that way too. Those people did not like Peter Parker getting married. They thought that was the wrong choice. They didn't like.
Carl Maxey just told us to renew our vows, which is just hysterical.
And that they didn't like specifically Mary Jane. That like they being fans from the beginning, they were like, Mary Jane is not who Peter Parker marries.
And I should love this because they fight a dinosaur. You know, and I'm usually really into.
I had to explain who Sauron was to somebody at work today.
And I'm still not on board with the way she gets her powers. That it's tapping into his powers.
It's the Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Let me share my powers with you.
And then there's this whole weird thing now where we're finding out what the limitations of that are. Where fighting together it makes Peter weaker, but when they're apart, it's fine. And I think that's really strange. I don't know. Everything about it's real counterintuitive to me. The art's okay, and Mole Man is kind of fun.
That feels a little bit like a slap in the face of like, oh, this is the book you wanted? Well, here it is, but it's not what you wanted. Like, that almost feels deliberate. Like, see, you guys didn't want a married couple book.
And I want to take it on its own terms, certainly. But it's certainly not for me. I feel like, I don't know who the audience is. I feel like it's like, okay, here's what's weird.
Should be the audience.
And I hope I'm not pushing any buttons when I say this. It feels like it's for a younger audience, but the concept of that book is inherently for people who loved the marriage, which means it's guys my age. Like, I don't understand that. We've been talking a lot about how Marvel's been catering more to a younger audience lately. This feels like it's for 16, 18-year-olds. It doesn't, and it's weird because they're older, but then it's also about this, like, teenage spider kid or like preteen. Anyway, so I don't know. Maybe they're trying to please too many people at once. I want to know if other people are really liking this book, because a lot of people really like the first issue, and I was, I could have seen loving it after reading that first issue. Where like I was scratching my head at some things.
The Secret Wars mini?
I only read the first couple issues of it.
Okay. Because I didn't read that, but I've heard that's quite good.
And I liked things about the beginning of that, certainly.
Well, that's still Slott.
And it was more about, and that's the thing, is that Slott's not the guy I wanted writing that, because as we all know, I don't think he writes relationships particularly well.
Let's bring John Nuss back. They'll never do that. But he wrote The Best Marriage.
And I've only read the first arc of that, so.
I don't think you even get to Mary Jane. Oh, his Peter Mary Jane is so great.
No, I just get to, I just start the totem stuff.
Yeah.
And liked what I read. I don't like that idea, but I liked what I read. I should read the rest of that. Anyway,
I have all.
We start reviewing a thing, and then we don't finish reviewing it. We just don't get to the rest of the volumes, and then I forget to go back and read it.
That was a Christmas present, sir.
Oh, I've got 2 or 3 Christmas presents from you I've never read. I haven't read Deadshot yet either.
I've never read Resurrection Man.
Did I give you Resurrection Man?
You gave me the Resurrection Man trade. And the old stuff, not the 52 stuff.
I've got all of it in single issues. I mean, they never went that far, so you can't read it past a couple volumes, I think. I'm not sure how much of that they actually put out. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they did put it all out.
You got me Resurrection Man with the explanation of, this is something I know you don't have.
Is that what I said?
That's what you said.
So anyway, that is it for us for new comics, and now let's talk about the things we are most looking forward to for this coming week. Eric, what 3 books are you most anticipating this coming week?
I'm looking forward to Sam Wilson, Captain America number 16, which is a book that I read the last 2 issues of, but not on the weeks that they came out, and I loved. So I'm excited to maybe possibly get to talk about this book, on the show. Klaus.
Yeah, you said 15 was like genius.
14.
Or 14.
14 is genius. 15 is also really good. So I'm excited.
I dropped off after the first issue just because I was reading so much stuff, but I liked it.
I would really like you to read 14, just 14.
Yeah.
Because I think 14 is brilliant. Klaus and the Winter Witch? The Witch of Winter?
Witch of Winter. It's a 40-page one-shot.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too.
So excited.
Eric and I just finished reading Klaus a few days ago. We haven't gotten around to reviewing it yet. We're going to try to put that up on Christmas.
Yeah. Look
Klaus is a masterpiece. That's all I'll say right now. But it's I don't use this. I never say this. Instant classic.
Absolutely. It's a Christmas classic. I'll read it every year.
Instantly.
Yeah. What was my number 3? Oh, Power Man and Iron Fist Sweet Christmas Annual. I didn't talk about Power Man and Iron Fist this week because it wasn't as good as last month. But it wasn't as good as the other books on my list. I guess really it was fun. But oh man, I'm excited for Sweet Christmas.
Sweet Christmas
on Christmas week.
That's pretty cool.
Your holiday annual, it came out on the week before Christmas. That's not a Christmas annual.
It came out too early. Well, and what's weird is then there's a backup story at the end that's Deadpool at Halloween. And
is it messed up Halloween? Or is it just normal Halloween?
No, it's normal Halloween because it's after the bookend, and then Deadpool like just sticks his head in at the end and he's like, "Hey, I want to be in this comic too." And then he goes, "Look, man, it says holiday special on the cover. This is about a holiday and it's special. I know my rights. I can tell the story if I want to. Thank you." I didn't read all of that part.
But I'm really excited for Power Man and Iron Fist Sweet Christmas Special. Or Sweet Christmas Annual. And it's a real annual. 11 issues. Next issue is 12. It's an actual annual. DC put out annuals at issue 12, but those are double shipping, so they're actually semi-annuals.
That's a good point. That would have been great. If they call them semi-annuals. And then I would have done that with one of the titles on Comic Book Late Night. I would be like, I'm just going to keep doing that to mess with people and to make fun of the really weird way we
I should start telling people Sweet Christmas instead of Merry Christmas. I should say Sweet Christmas.
They'll think it's an exclamation if they've seen Luke Cage, though. They'll be like, "Why are you constantly exclaiming things?"
I'm constantly exclaimed. That's how it works, right?
So is that your 3?
That's my 3. What's your 3?
My 3 are Star Trek Green Lantern 2. Number 1, I was not aware that we were getting a sequel to that this early until a week ago, so I'm really excited about that.
Are Red Lanterns going to be in it?
What's that?
Are the Red Lanterns going to be in it?
Yeah, well, they did the whole spectrum in the first one, so I'm assuming that they get it. What it feels like, that, and I think you'd like it. What that first series felt like was not so much Green Lantern and Star Trek. It felt like Blackest Night and Star Trek.
Oh, cool.
And that was awesome. Venom number 2.
That almost made on my list.
So good. And Klaus. That one shot. Right now, we're going to open up to whatever you folks would like to hear us talk about, comic book related. Try to keep it 2 comics if you can, superhero and comic book stuff, and we will let you steer the conversation, whatever you would like us to talk about. So start asking your questions. Please do that. Oh, that dope channel. Are we doing Geekiest Things this week? No, that's the wrong show. That's Geeks Not Nerds. And we last night we did a spoiler cast, so we didn't have an episode of that. And Sunday is Christmas, and we will not be having a Geeks Not Nerds.
Oh, we will be having Klaus.
But pre-recorded. As much fun as it would be to do a live show on Christmas and see if anybody shows up.
Did you the Darth Vader?
We like Chinese restaurants. Anybody that doesn't celebrate Christmas. Like some folks will be there and be like, "What? It's just a normal day for me."
Did you hear about the Darth Vader fireplace thing? Okay, so you know how you can put on like a fireplace channel where it just looks like a fireplace on your TV?
Yeah.
Someone made one where it's Darth Vader's body burning at the end of Return of the Jedi on an 8-hour loop.
That sounds mortifying.
I want it.
That's not right. DC Stranded, do y'all use Comixology? This conversation we had recently about Comixology and what it's useful for, and whether or not specifically stores ought to be using it for pull lists. Yeah, I use Comixology. Of course, if you're not familiar with it, that is a website that's useful for a number of different things. Because of course, it's primarily digital sales, but it's also a pull list program connected to your comic book shop if your comic book shop uses that service. And also it's where I keep track of my pull lists and my subscriptions, because again, tied directly to my comic shop. So the idea is, if your store has that set up, you go in and you put in your polls and on that website, and you can track it that way. But then whatever you put on there, your store knows about it. And you don't have to fill out with paper and stuff. And I feel like every store should be using something like that. If not Comixology, at least have their own system, because things change so much.
Did I ever tell you years ago?
Yeah.
When I'm still going to comic shop, I get on Comixology, I make my poll list, and I stop going to comic shop. I still get emails from Comixology.
Oh, interesting.
Telling me that what books of mine came out. I'm not sure if I still get emails because it was funny. It was really early on.
You'd think they would shut you. You think that store would have shut that down?
I don't think they're pulling the books. They can't be. This is like 4 years ago.
No, certainly not.
But it's at the beginning of New 52.
But that makes me wonder if on their side they can shut down your they probably can't. They can probably just disconnect themselves. I wonder what their side looks like. Mm-hmm. I've always wondered that, because the one shop I worked at didn't use it until later on, but I wasn't doing the ordering. So,
but it was at the beginning of New 52. So a lot of the books are books I was excited for at the beginning of New 52, whether I ended up liking them or not. So every once in a while, I get like, I think it's like, hey, Green Arrow 16 came out, and I'm like, that's great. Not reading it.
Good to know.
But yeah, but given that DC is now renumbered and Marvel renumbered, I can't imagine anything still on my pull list.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, that's what's funny about that is like most of that, really nothing should still be running, unless you had like Ninja Turtles.
Which
I
don't think
the only things I can think of that would still be running that haven't renumbered yet, not at DC or Marvel.
Yeah,
that you would have.
Yeah,
like Looney Tunes. That's stuck around. It hasn't renumbered. Sonic the Hedgehog, but that's our.
Recall that I used to go to the theater. I used to watch them before the films, the flicks, the talkies, and I was like, these are never gonna catch on. No one's gonna be talking about these. Still here.
It is so weird. I've read a couple of those. It's weird reading that in comic form. Like, they do everything they can to make the delivery come out on the page, but at the end of the day, you're looking at storyboards for a cartoon.
Right.
But the pacing can work. I mean, I've always been impressed with that with the people that have made Powerpuff Girls comics that could recreate that kind of pacing in panels.
I want to say I've read some Muppet stuff that does a pretty good job of that.
Comixology has its hiccups, certainly. One thing that's really strange about it is that I cannot, for the life of me, keep myself signed in on that website. Every time I go to it, no matter what I do, I have to re-sign in, and it's not a big deal. But then what happens is you go in to get to look at your pulls, and you sign in. It says you're signed in. Your name is up there, and then you go to your pull list, and it says you must be logged in to use this feature. You click on log in, and now you're in. You don't have to do it again. It's just for some reason you have to click that again. It's really so got some strange hiccups here and there. If you do read digital, they have a really good digital player. It's the best around.
And they have amazing sales, and they also have things.
Well, I mean, you say amazing sales. Obviously, in a perfect world where we could keep the comic shops open and still do this, we wouldn't have the same prices day and date, because you don't own an issue. You're reading. I love what William said in the comic shop documentary that we made, where he said, I don't understand why we call it a digital comic. That would be like calling a picture of a hamburger a digital hamburger. It's not a digital hamburger, it's a picture of a hamburger. But anyway.
The Comixology also has digital things that are not in print. The big ones are they have some Japanese manga that's older stuff.
That's really useful.
They have the original Kamen Rider manga, which is a 4-volume manga. It is not in print in America. They translated it. They have it up on their site. You can read it there.
Wow.
Yeah, I really want those.
And finally, most of the companies have gone there. For the longest time, Image didn't do digital at all.
Oh, okay.
And they're around finally now. All of Spawn's available. And I mean, all kinds of other stuff, but don't do that. Let's see. Dimitri 2, inspired by this discussion going on in comments, because nobody's paying attention to us this evening, how much do you think adaptations can change a character before it becomes just too separate, even if it's well written? In any examples?
Well,
adaptations. Okay.
Well, there's two things there.
Yeah.
Because there is a point of no return where it gets so far away that it becomes its own thing.
It's just in name only. Yeah.
Constantine's a little bit like this.
Mm-hmm.
That movie is not like the comic, but it's different enough that it doesn't bother me. And I like it on its own terms. There's certainly stuff
but
like that.
But still using the trappings to enough of a degree that you can understand why it's called that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know that it's pronounced differently, which probably also kind of helps a little bit,
Yeah.
where it feels like it even has a different title. But I mean,
I'm gonna be so.
it's still a chain smoker who's dying.
I'm gonna be angry all over again when Justice League Dark comes out. I'm sure they don't get his name right. It's Constantine. It rhymes with line. But
got no dog in this fight.
But given
I met the man before I'd ever read a comic book, of him.
When does an adaptation go too far that's not the character?
Mm-hmm.
Never. On paper, it's still always the character, right? Like, if I read Dan Slott's Spider-Man, that's not Spider-Man,
mm-hmm.
but it is. It's still Spider. Like, I guess that becomes a really personal thing where it's like, well, that's not what that is.
It's really hard not to look at it case by case. At the same time, we talked about this the other night with Suicide Squad,
right?
Where you're like, well, even if it was done well, you can't have Harley Quinn and Joker not be an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
Why? And your explanation is right, but you just said it is. You see what I'm saying? Like, that is contradictory to that argument.
I'm not really sure what
legally. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Will Smith does a good job in that movie. He's not Deadshot. There are a couple key characteristics of Floyd Lawton that he doesn't have.
I don't mean to just keep poking at the DC extended bear, but this is just what comes to me most readily. But a lot of people question whether or not Man of Steel Superman is Superman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are the qualifications at one point? And in my mind, real easy for me to say, okay, this isn't what I wanted. This isn't like for instance, let me know if folks are having difficulty hearing us, because I just got a message that says that we've got a bad connection. And I've never ever seen Google Plus do that. That was really strange. It's like your connection, you're experiencing connectivity problems. I'm like, we've had that a lot, and you've never told me about it before.
Well, I guess,
but I was going somewhere with that.
You were talking about that's case by case. It's how it's whether it's effective, because it's really easy. The example I was gonna throw out is Green Hornet. Didn't want that to be a comedic, farcical kind of thing, but if it was good, I could have enjoyed that movie despite that. You know what I mean? And I don't hate that movie, but I don't think it's great. Or something like because we only bring this up really when we don't like it.
Yeah.
But Doc Ock Spider-Man 2 is not Doc Ock.
Sure.
No one talks about that because it's a good character and a good performance.
They'll say because he was sympathetic and he felt like a real person to them, we actually improved on that character. People do tend to say that.
I think we just stapled the lizard onto him, but
no, I get that, and I know what your opinion is of that. And as time has gone on, I've I don't want to say I've turned around on it, but I guess I still really like him in that movie, but I've come to appreciate comic book Doc Ock more, and I don't think he's quite as one-dimensional mustache twirling as I used to think he was. Mm-hmm. So there's that.
But so yeah, I guess if it works, it won't bother you. If it doesn't work, it will bother you, and that's really the risk you take a lot of times with adaptations. I'm not a big enough fan, but I'm gonna guess that pre Guardians, Star-Lord does not act the way that character acts.
Some of it's could it go so far that Power Ranger fans go, well, that's not Power Rangers? And even if it's good, will they not care? Mm-hmm. And will people refuse to acknowledge what is effective because it's not what they wanted, and because it doesn't feel authentic to the material. And those are often, for me, just separate issues. You know what I mean? Like, The Shadow isn't The Shadow, but it's an okay movie.
I think he is The Shadow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not a Shadow fan,
yeah.
so people have told me that. When I reviewed it, I was like, "That's a pretty good movie," you know?
Yeah, no, I think he is The Shadow. He's a little watered down. He's a combination of the radio show and the pulps, but he's in the ballpark.
Okay.
Ultimate Spider-Man, the animated series, that is not Peter Parker. I don't know what the end game of this conversation is.
Yeah, absolutely.
When is or isn't.
This is a GNN topic, and I feel like at some point maybe we should revisit that. Steve wants to know if we and Lo are doing a best comics of 2016 this month. And it won't be this month, it'll be in January, but I was just talking to Connor about this today. Yes, I will be. Eric has not read enough single issues this year that it would make any sense at all for him to compile a list. But I will definitely be doing one, and I'll try to find at least one or two other people. And hopefully Lo will want to do that, because she has definitely read enough to do.
It's like the top 10 or top 5? Or?
It's a top 10 of single issues, which Mano started years ago, and I continued that tradition for a while. I didn't do one last year because I didn't read enough single issues.
That's real easy, because I get 6 out of International Iron Man. It's 7-issue series. I can do issues 1 and 2, and then 4 through 7.
You're not allowed to do that.
I know.
So yeah,
I'm joking.
But you see why I probably would not have invited you on.
I actually think
you're
I was
not reading
on
a
one
lot
of
in
those.
singles. Yeah, because you had a couple years where you were reading in singles, but you're more of a trade guy now.
Yeah.
Now, if you continue doing this with me, you'll be able to do it next year.
Mm-hmm.
But you just haven't been reading singles. But anyway, I have bought more single issues this year than I ever have in a single year.
Oh, and Tom King's Batman. I can just International Iron Man, Tom King's Batman.
So I will most certainly be doing that with at least somebody.
Well, I would assume Lyle.
Yeah, I just haven't talked to her about it yet, but yeah, I'm surely Low. Okay, what else? Carl Maxey, Cap, what do you think will be the aftermath of the MCU after Infinity War, especially in Netflix? Well, it depends on whether or not Netflix keeps staying behind. Mm-hmm. You know, there might not be an aftermath for another 4 or 5 years on Netflix. Mm-hmm. I would love for them to get to a place in their continuity where they can start acknowledging more.
They don't even know Ultron's coming.
No, they have no idea. So at least I just think it's funny that especially on Netflix, I think nothing for a while. I think it'll be 2025 before Netflix even acknowledges that what I'm assuming will happen in Infinity War, that the whole universe gets destroyed and put back together. They won't know about that. But also in Infinity War, I've been predicting this, and I don't know what you think of this. I think Infinity War could easily be a blending of Infinity Gauntlet and Secret Wars, the original Secret Wars. I don't think anybody's going to know about it. I think that is a big, giant cosmic war that the Earth is completely unaware of. Yeah. That the whole universe is at stake, and us lowly mortals don't even know about it.
I can see that.
I think that's where that'll go. So my answer to that is there won't be any. There will be no aftermath. I mean, aftermath for our heroes and stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as like the regular world goes, I don't think much.
One of my biggest, the thing that I hate that Marvel did. Marvel announced every movie up to Infinity War,
and we don't know what's coming after it.
Yeah, but they released it so like I'm less excited is maybe the wrong word, but like there's no anticipation for a lot of the Marvel movies for me until we're actually getting close to them, because I know what they all are until 2020. And because they gave me all the information, I'm like, and then what comes next?
And also, it was too easy to do a dot-to-dot and draw lines to things where I was especially irritated with this with Ultron. And I haven't had this as much afterwards, which is nice. Mm-hmm. Civil War, I felt like I got to go into not really knowing too much about where we were going to be left after that. Man, Age of Ultron was just such a clear path, like where we would be after that and stuff. And I didn't love that. So I mean, like just announcing so many of them at once and seeing the order of it and stuff. Sometimes it's really easy to go, okay, and this must happen. And also they tend to leak things too quickly.
I really hope that they announced Iron Man 4. That's my big thing after Infinity War is I want to see an Iron Man 4, especially given how much has happened to Tony since Iron Man 3.
Well, what I was going to say is I could very easily see that being the turning point where finally we retire that character.
Mm.
I mean, I don't know if you get an Iron Man 4, or if maybe
Downey said he wants
one.
to do one with Mel Gibson directing.
Sure, but just as far just story wise and stuff, I can see one of the big things happening in that movie is we retire that character,
and that would really feel like this isn't just the end of Phase 3. This is the end of like Chapter 1
of that initial status quo.
Yeah,
and now we're like hip deep into out of this is all new territory. Infinity War really needs to kind of put the cap on new Marvel universe. You know what I mean?
Well, and especially since we got to everything was building to Avengers, which kind of gave us Thanos. This needs to feel like this is the end of everything we've been building to up to this point. I don't want to get to the end of Infinity War and it seed the next thing. It needs to feel like an ending of sorts.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, and one of the things I really like about Civil War is that, and I wouldn't have thought that this is what you would do with it before I saw it, but it feels like major growing pains of, and I guess this is what it ought to have been in the first place, which is why it was so weird doing it decades into a superhero continuity, where it actually makes a lot more sense early on, where like it's part of the growing pains of this new subculture.
Mm-hmm.
And so Infinity War, like I said, really should be, and to your point, and now it's a superhero world that's been around for a while.
Yeah, it should feel like jumping into the comics.
Let's do one more, folks. If I can find one. Rodimus Prime wants to know if you've read any of the new ROM Space Knight. I'm pretty sure you haven't.
No, I'm not a ROM guy. I read the first issue of Revolution, and Rom just shows up and murders people. And I texted a friend of mine who I know is reading Rom, and I was like, "What's up with Rom just showing up and murdering people?" And he goes, "That's basically what he's doing in his own book." So that's what I know about Rom. I really my biggest hope with IDW getting that license is that they get to reprint the Marvel stuff, because I really want to read that, because that's something I've always heard is really good. And they've reprinted Marvel's G.I. Joe and Transformers, so it's not without precedent.
That Note channel says Feige has actually said they aren't naming any movies after Infinity War till those movies are released, because the titles of Phase 4 are spoilers for those movies. And if that's the case, that's great, because I felt like it was already too spoilery the last time.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that is what's going on. But if you say
until Rings of the Mandarin,
I mean, it can't be until release. So like we're gonna know about each years before they come out. But you don't have to have a big list and a chart that tracks it for 6 years like we did last time.
Well, and given that it's no longer Infinity War Part 1 and 2, it's Infinity War and something else.
Something else, yeah.
Or something else in Infinity War, I bet you we get it between those movies. Or we at least get the early announcements between those movies.
It would be cool if somehow or rather we could announce it more one at a time. But considering they come out 3 to 4 to 5 months apart, I don't see how.
I want those names to be.
It gets leaked, right? Like there's no filming one of these movies without people knowing that you're making one of these movies.
I want the names to be like huge spoilers, like Black Panther, King of the Earth, Captain America, Space Adventurer,
Captain America, no longer Steve Rogers,
Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3, Saving the Fantastic Four.
That's great. The Coming of Galactus. Yeah.
Spider-Man, One-Armed. I want them to be real spoiler-heavy titles.
I'm trying to think of a good one.
Black Widow and Hawkeye, finally.
Dormammu, attorney at law. Anyway, that's gonna be it for us tonight.
Hulk after Smash.
That's good. Surely we've used that as a title.
That was the Fallout books after World War Hulk.
Oh, okay.
They were World War Hulk after Smash.
That's pretty good. Spider-Man: The Death of Gwen Stacy. Anyway, so the answer to the trivia question was the Ace of Clubs. That is Bibbo's bar, and the first person who got that right, I might not have written down. I'll have to go back to the top and find
Spider-Man from
But somebody got that right. Good job. And only one person wrote it in, so he knows who he is if he's still watching. So send me a personal message on Geekvolution or Facebook, and tell me which of those Marvel books you would like. And and you could also get the Gwenpool Holiday Special if you wanted that. That's another possibility.
I'm going to call New Avengers. Post Infinity War.
New Avengers?
We will get a movie called New Avengers.
You think so? Oh yeah, no, I think you're right. That makes perfect sense. Sure. I also see a not too far from now some kind of a Spider-Man spin-off thing, like some other character.
Yeah,
because Sony wanted that so bad.
Sony still trying to do that Venom movie?
Yeah, I mean they're still talking about that just constantly.
Like anyone cares. Like,
well, we could be made to care, but you gotta get us.
Well, and like everyone was excited for the idea of an Agent Venom movie.
Yeah,
we're past Agent Venom in the comics now.
Yeah, but it was a long-lasting thing. I mean, that's like saying, well, we don't have to. I mean, we don't have to start with Eddie Brock, but that's like saying nobody would care to see Eddie Brock now. No, they still would.
Yeah, I know, but it feels like this thing where it's like the excitement for Venom was that everyone thought it was going to be Agent Venom. And now that excitement's not there because Agent Venom's not the hot new thing, unless I'd like if
you know what though, I think that excitement is still there. I'm gonna fight you on that. I still hear people talking.
I think if they announce Agent Venom, people would be excited.
People would be excited, yeah.
But
that's gonna be one of those things that sticks.
If they don't do Agent Venom,
but
they're fools.
Yeah, but they also need to wait till we build to it. You know, they got to get us there. I'm not saying you couldn't start with it, but it still needs to spin from a Spider-Man movie. You know what I mean?
I'm going to bet if we get a Venom movie, it's in its own universe, and it's just a guy who it's going to be Catwoman.
I don't think that'll happen.
We will see.
We'll see.
Sony's crazy, people.
No, Sony's crazy, but keep in mind, Marvel's got them on a bit of a leash now. Like, I don't think they'd be allowed to do that.
I think that's part of it. Like, they're still allowed to do, and we still don't know what that animated Spider-Man movie is.
Yeah.
That they're making by themselves without Marvel.
Right. No, that's true, but I think that's supposed to still somehow rather be in continuity.
Yeah, I think I've heard that too.
I don't like that, by the way. I've always been weird about that. Like I don't want an animated thing or comics or something to be part of that continuity. Just to keep it all live action and on screen.
It would be like if Big Hero 6 was in continuity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like, I could be made to be okay with it if I felt like the flavor was close enough. But generally, when we do that, we go cartoony enough that it doesn't feel like it should be there.
Yeah. Yep, you do things that just don't make sense. That make sense in animation, but not in that universe.
Big Hero
6, we're here.
I had forgotten about that. Yeah, Sony, I guess is allowed to make certain things. So maybe
that was the impression I always got when they talked about Venom was that was their property.
But then what's weird about that is that Marvel, now that they have access to Spider-Man stuff, like, would they be forced to avoid Venom so they could make their standalone Venom thing? I wouldn't think so. And they would be insane to do that because it would confuse everyone. And they'd be like, well, we have Spider-Man in these Marvel movies and he isn't in continuity. No, it's not. Like, that would bomb no matter what it was.
Yeah. Still a sequel to the ASM movies.
Venom, the Sinister Six. Anyway, Venom versus Aunt May, because you know they would have made that Aunt May movie. Yeah,
we're getting a hot Aunt May movie. They're going to call it that. They're putting
hot Aunt May.
Hot Aunt May. What's that?
Hot Aunt May 2 even hotter.
No, I was going to go to a classic Fear David Spider-Man issue. Cometh the Commuter. It'll be Hot Aunt May, Cometh the Commuter. Nope, you can't have Hot and Cometh. Never mind. I'm sorry. I apologize.
That Dope Channel says there's no way the Russos would be discussing the Venom symbiote in interviews if Sony had told Marvel you can't use this. Yeah, exactly.
I didn't even know they were discussing that.
Yeah, there's been talk about. I mean, because Venom's. I mean, you know, we learned this from the character who's the old producer we always make fun of?
Oh, Avi Arad.
Avi Arad, yeah. We know from Avi Arad that Venom is the most popular character. So anyway, well,
Avi Arad made toys in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that skews his perceptions at all.
Right. No, that's the joke. Anyway, thanks for watching, folks. We sure appreciate it, and we will see you again next time. I don't know if we're going to be doing a show on Monday. That's the day after Christmas.
Well, but we have to do a show next week because it's just such a big week.
It's a big week, yeah.
And
doubling up would be a bad idea. No, we'll definitely do a show next week sometime. And of course, obviously, again, not a live show on Sunday because it's Christmas. But everybody have a great holiday. We will have some more videos up this week, so you will see us again. But this will be our last live show before the 25th. So thanks a lot for watching. We sure appreciate it. Once again, everybody stay safe and have a great holiday. And in the meantime, I am Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
And we'll see you next time.